Scoring. It is the most fundamental part of sports. It is how we determine who wins and who loses. Scoring has evolved over the 130-year history of basketball. It has changed to become an art form. Some of the best players in history have also been the best scorers. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They were unbelievable scorers and had their own special way of scoring the basketball. Whether it was a graceful fadeaway, a sky hook, or a blow-by straight to the basket. Some of the game's greatest players have also been its greatest scorers. But we've also had players whose singular goal was to go in and score the ball. Some of the game's greats have been amazing scorers. Guys who are pure buckets, guys dedicated to put the ball in the basket. History has shown those guys are valuable. So why then are they starting to disappear?
Sacramento Kings last year had the highest offensive rating in NBA history at 118.6 points per 100 possessions. Did you know that this year there are 4 teams that have a higher offensive rating than the Sacramento Kings did last year? In fact, second highest offensive rating in NBA history was in 2021. The Brooklyn Nets, 117.3. There are 8 teams this year that have a higher offensive rating than the second best offensive rating in NBA history. What gives? What's happening? Why is the offensive rating going up? Why are defensive ratings going up? Why is it harder and harder to get stops?
Role players have evolved over the past couple years in the NBA. No longer can you be just a pure defensive ace. No longer are you allowed to have the ability not to score the basketball. NBA offenses rely on every guy on the floor being able to put the ball in the basket. Modern NBA offenses have become so dynamic that every guy on the floor has to almost be able to do everything in order to lead the team to a championship. Take the championship Denver Nuggets team from last season. They were led by a player who has the ability to do everything, in Nikola Jokic. A guy who has the ability to score at will, but also an amazing passer, and also available on defense, with guys surrounding him like Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon. They're not one-dimensional players. These are guys who have the ability to take over the game on the offensive side, yes, but they also provide things besides scoring. Whether it's Jamal Murray's court awareness or Aaron Gordon's stifling defense against the opposing team's best player, the guy on your team who isn't the main option has had to evolve his role. Take a guy I used to watch a lot growing up, in Lou Williams. This is a guy who had a spot in the league for nearly 17 years. He bounced around to about 6 NBA teams during his career. Lou was a guy who came off the bench and was in to score the basketball. He was a pure bucket getter. For his career, he averaged nearly around 14 points a game in an era where scoring came at a premium. In today's NBA, Lou Williams, a pure bucket, a guy who could get to the basket at will, with a deadly jump shot and the handles to break down any defender in front of him, would be the 85th highest scoring player by points per game in the NBA right now. There are 42 players this season alone who average more than 20 points per game. Those who watch Lou Williams play know he was a great player, and his career accolades definitely show for it. But why is it a rarity to see guys like him, guys who were springboards off the bench, who provided excellent scoring, a rarity in NBA rotations these days? Over the past couple seasons, guys whose skill was to go out there and get buckets, guys who could only score the basketball and don't provide anything else on the floor, have been phased out of the NBA. Owners and GMs across the league are asking, what happens when your offense isn't going? What happens when you're not able to score the basketball? We all know everyone has their off nights, and if you're having one of those off nights, they feel you're not needed on the floor. This has been an issue we're seeing in the league right now. Take a guy like Cam Thomas, a pure scorer, a guy who can get buckets at will. He could probably average 30 if he wanted to, but he has nights where he just goes cold. Cam Thomas is not an above average defender. He's certainly not a passing extraordinaire. And that's why you've seen him phased out of the rotation on his own team, where his team seems like it needs scoring. And don't get me wrong, I like Cam Thomas. I think he's a really good player. I think he should have a spot in a rotation in the NBA. But the Brooklyn Nets, for some reason, don't feel the same way I do. They don't think Cam Thomas deserves a spot in their rotation after he goes cold. And that's one of the main issues that it comes to when your only ability on a basketball court is to score. NBA offenses have been on a tear. We get a new best offensive rating every season, and it's really proving that almost everybody in the NBA has the ability to score. What separates the guys who have the ability to score and the guys whose only ability is to score is a guy like Aaron Gordon, a guy I brought up earlier who played on the Denver Nuggets championship team. In Orlando, before he moved to Denver, he was a number 1 or at least the number 2 option. He flashed the potential as an offensive talent. However, his role changed when he moved to Denver, and he became one of the best defenders on a championship level team. That level of adaptation has been necessary for role players across the NBA. Every NBA player who comes into the league nowadays has the ability to put the ball in the basket, but it's about what separates you from the other guy. What are you able to do that makes you different from the pure scorer? The guys who are able to do that have made a name for themselves in the NBA. Take guys like OG Anunoby and Alex Caruso. The guys who have been able to separate themselves from being pure scorers and evolve their roles have found a place in today's league and will find a place in today's league. Getting buckets will always have a place in the NBA. It's just not as rare as it used to be. The need for dynamic players in a rotation has become a necessity for teams that want to win a championship. Basketball will always continue to evolve. It's an ever-changing sport. Bringing multiple aspects to basketball has always been valuable. We used to just see it only in the best players. But those role players, the Lou Williams of the world, have had to evolve their games to make it in the NBA now. No longer can you be just a great passer. No longer can you be just a great defender. No longer can you be just a great rebounder. You have to have multiple aspects to your game in order to make it. You need to be able to separate yourself from the other guy. This means the guy who came into the league and purely got buckets is no longer a necessity in the NBA. Thanks, guys.